We're coming to you live for the Build Ford Tough Studio. Boomer Esiason, Greg Giannotti. It's Boomer and Gio on the Fan. Simulcast across the country on CBS Sports Network and wherever you are in the free Odyssey app. Good Wednesday morning. Back after a day off yesterday. And we got sports. We got sports happening. We've got another Yankee blowout. Aaron Judge is absolutely amazing. The tear that he continues to be on. You get a Mets loss back from London to the Marlins, and Francisco Lindor saying that the team is flat and the fans are flat. Well, what do you expect? I mean, for God's sakes, his season has been a nightmare so far. You want everybody to show up and you're going crazy, positive, and doing the wave for you guys? And then, of course, there's just another stupid, hopefully meaningless Jet story out there with Aaron Rodgers missing mandatory minicamp for an event that was important to him, which I can't wait to find out exactly what that is. But the Jets continue to make negative headlines somehow, some way. I don't think it matters, but it just really is amazing because after the way that last year went, it's like there's sharks in the water now this year. Like last year they got a pass and Aaron Rodgers is going to change everything. And now this year every little thing shows up as a headline. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Jay. I'm doing well. And I would just say this in regards to Aaron Rodgers. He's the one that said you got to limit the distractions. All he is one big giant distraction, no matter what it is.
Yep.
And, look, I don't know. Could it be some sort of memorial funeral? Could it be a golf event? Could it be a fundraising event? It could be a million different things. I have no idea what it is. But the fact of the matter is you do have a responsibility for a mandatory minicamp to be there. And they had to know about this. This can't be something that just popped up.
Right.
And the way that it sounds like to me, the way that they were discussing it publicly, that they were a little bit annoyed, perturbed, and probably, again, disappointed because, Aaron's been here for 14 months. And unfortunately, there has been very little to speak of on the field. Most of the stuff that we've been speaking about in regards to him, unfortunately, has been off the field. And, he's an amazing player. He's a mercurial personality. He is somebody that Joe Douglas and the Jets want fully in on. And I fully endorsed way back when this was going on. And I never in my wildest dream could have thought we would be here 14 months later, and then we'd be talking about a mandatory minicamp that's been missed due to some event. Whatever that event is, I'm sure it's important to him. I can't imagine that he would do something like this if it wasn't something that he had committed to and felt like he owned up. He needed to own up and be there. But it doesn't matter in June what's going to happen in September, but it's just another layer of crap that you got to deal with.
Yeah, now are they going to fine him?
Yeah, they'll fine him. They'll fine him $50,000. I think they can fine him up to $50,000, and they should fine him.
So that means that to me, it's not a memorial thing. It's not something that you feel like, hey, Aaron, I understand. Somebody that passed away, or someone that is sick. I mean, if he would have communicated something like that, and the Jets would have fined him $50,000, that would have been ridiculous. So obviously, this is something that the Jets look at and say, I don't think you should be missing these minicamp practices for whatever this is, so we're going to fine you.
All right, so it could be a number of events. It could be a number of different things, and I certainly don't want to sit here if, in fact, it's something so important that we look like, like ass faces or
ass face
hats,
spot.
Ass hats,
yeah.
When he does come back and explains where he is. But there also could be other things. It could be an appearance fee of $250,000 to show up somewhere. It could be shooting a commercial for something somewhere. He could be doing, a handful of other things. He maybe, auctioned off a round of golf with himself somewhere. Who knows? It could be any of those things. But I just think between him and Hassan Reddick, the Jets, especially the Hassan Reddick thing, really, this worries me because he wants a new contract. And I got to believe that Joe Douglas knew that when he was making the move for him, that Reddick wants some sort of new contract, and it's going to be a significant bump in what he's going to make this year. I think he's making $15 million this year, and I'm sure he wants more guaranteed money and he wants more term. And this is something that I can't imagine that they didn't realize that this was going to happen. You don't make that trade unless you know exactly what's going on with him and the Eagles and what the Eagles and he were talking about before, I guess, ultimately swapping players when you think about it. Bryce Huff going to Philadelphia and then Hassan Reddick coming here.
Yeah, I mean, Hassan Reddick was available because of his contract situation in part. I mean, he was one of the better and has been one of the most productive pass rushers in the game. You don't just trade away that guy when you're trying to get back to a Super Bowl like the Philadelphia Eagles are if there isn't a reason for it. And one of the big reasons for it was the fact of his contract. So, yeah, they're still dealing with that. Rob Saleh basically said he's going to be ready to play football. It's a situation that'll work itself out. Whereas he seemed almost more annoyed with the Aaron Rodgers situation about the unexcused absence. Now, the Jets also have painted themselves in a corner in a way with Aaron Rodgers because last year, everything that he wanted, they gave him in the offseason and basically even after he got hurt. So now, if he does something like this and they let him get away with it, now the perception is that he is continuing to run the organization, which is something that the Jets were criticized for all of last year. So it's almost like, they have to follow through on a fine with him, or everybody else is going to be saying, all right, Aaron Rodgers just came here. He's blown up your team. He's made a mockery of this whole thing, and you guys are just letting it happen.
Yeah, it's really amazing when you think about it. I'm just trying to put myself in Joe Douglas's seat and Rob Saleh's seat. Rob Saleh's got to go up there with some sort of egg on his face explaining why a starting quarterback is not at mandatory, minicamp. And again, you're trying to build a team. And the offseason, when you're trying to build a team, these are important get-togethers. The OTAs are important get-togethers. This is how you get to meet your new teammates. This is how you get to talk through different, situations on the field when you're out there throwing to each other. And I don't know. It's just another weird kind of Aaron Rodgers situation. I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah, and of course that quote keeps coming back and back about we have to eliminate all of this nonsense off the field that has nothing to do with winning. I mean, it's almost like he's got no self-awareness when it comes to that. But I don't believe, as you said, that this is going to have some sort of impact on how he plays during the season. I still think they could have a very good season. They're still very talented. It's just at this point, after everything that the Jets fan has gone through since Aaron Rodgers got here, the ups of the offseason last year in training camp and Hard Knocks, and then the downs of the injury and Zach Wilson again and all the stuff that they went through. It's like every one of these things feels magnified now. So it doesn't feel like a little thing when it could be a little thing because nothing has worked out since he's been here. So when people will sort of make light of this, they're like, oh, so what? He missed a mandatory. The guy's been playing for 100 years. Like, I know Pat McAfee was talking about it, and him and A.J. Hawk are going to have Aaron Rodgers back. And it's like, the guy's been in the league for 20 years. Him missing a mandatory minicamp and an unexcused absence isn't going to mean anything.
Well, time out. They're saying that from Indianapolis, and they're buddies of his.
Yeah.
They're not his head coach. They're not his general manager who swung a trade for him. They're not the owner who's paid him. They're not the team that got basically nothing out of him because he got hurt. I mean, those guys are his buddies. So, of course, they're going to say that. And, of course, reality tells you that, one minicamp in the middle of June doesn't really mean anything. But, yeah, it does mean it means a lot. And it puts people in a lot of really weird situations. And that's the collateral damage that these guys aren't taking into account. I mean, how would they feel if they were the head coach? Or how would they feel if they had him booked on the show and he decided not to show up? If he was getting paid, $50,000 an appearance and decided not to show up, how would they feel? I mean, this is the Jets. This is their season. This is their jobs. This is their livelihood.
Yeah.
And every single one of these people have said, "Man, if we don't get it done this year, we're all going to be gone." So that's why you can't say what those guys are saying without understanding what the other people are going through. What Aaron Rodgers is putting them through.
Yeah, and it's not so much the impact that it's going to have on the field week one and beyond. It's just this feel around the team, whereas, okay, this is another thing where it feels like it's a distraction. He's not all in like he felt like he was last year. I mean, think about all the stuff they've already gone through this offseason with him.
See, but this is
the thing.
It's
insanity.
But it's like this. If you let this slide, that's part of the culture. That's part of your culture. Everybody talks about the room, the locker room, the culture, what are you trying to build? What are you trying to become? And it all starts with just the everyday, normal way of going about things and not taking any of that stuff for granted. So when you're a Hall of Fame to be quarterback who you traded for 14 months ago, all of a sudden decides to miss a mandatory minicamp where he can get fined, that just chips away a little bit more at the culture. Now, other people outside of that building may feel differently. Pat and his buddies may feel differently. Other fans will say this doesn't mean anything because it's all going to come down to September. Fine, that's great. But if you're Rob Saleh and you're Joe Douglas, you are trying to build something, and you need all hands on deck. You can't have your most important guy, especially, decide, I'm not making mandatory minicamp unless, of course. But again, like you said, it's got to be something that they didn't agree to. Like the Jets are here saying, wait a minute, that you're not missing camp because of that. If you miss camp because of what you're missing camp for, we're going to fine you. And this is an unexcused absence is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, they could have very easily said, and I would be shocked to find out the way that Rob Saleh handled this unless Aaron Rodgers didn't tell them the truth about what was going on, that this was, some sort of life event that he had to be there for. Whether someone was very sick or someone had passed away. I mean, I feel like...
How about if somebody was getting married and he was in a wedding party? And it was a longtime friend.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be okay if he communicated that to them and said, I have to be at this thing and it lines up with minicamp. I'm going to miss this practice. I feel like Rob Saleh would have come out and said, yeah, I mean, I don't think he would have handled it like that. I mean, it sounds to me like he is doing something that they think he shouldn't be doing, and he should be at minicamp. Unless Rob Saleh's up there and feels like he has to talk tough and show that he's in charge, to me, this what it sounded like and felt like was that they don't agree with him not being there for the reason that he is not there. But we'll find out. I mean, and Aaron Rodgers is going to come back, and I don't know if he's going to tell the truth about what he was doing or whatever. He doesn't have to. Doesn't have to explain that to us.
Is there a third-party political convention going on somewhere? I mean, something like that, or
could be.
I mean, it's. I don't know, man. It's just it just goes to everything that a team's supposed to be, and it goes against everything that he has said. Again, I don't know what made him want to do this. I have no idea. And if the Jets are saying it's unexcused, then the reason that he gave them is not good enough.
Yeah, right. And just like Hassan Reddick isn't good enough because
but we know why. But we know
we've seen that a million times.
But we know why he's not here.
Right.
And number one, he wasn't here last year. They didn't swing the trade for him and Aaron modified his contract to his credit, but they didn't go through all the stuff that they went through with Aaron Rodgers.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, and the fact that I don't know if this is bizarre as well, but the fact that he would even think about joining a third political party
and that
has
wasn't
absolutely no chance to do anything. I mean, that's kind of like joining the Jets, though. I mean, at least in the last 10 years.
Yeah, that's a pretty good question. Who has a better chance to win? The Jets winning the Super Bowl or RFK Jr. winning the presidency?
I mean, the whole thing's bizarre, man. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for Rob Saleh, and you got to hope that it's not a precursor of things to come.
Yeah, I mean, and I was all in on this team like everybody was last year, and the injury derailed them. So if we were all in on them last year and he's going to be healthy, then you'd probably be pretty positive about what they can do this year, assuming that he's going to be able to play at a high level, which is something that, we don't know. I mean, he's an older quarterback coming off a massive injury, and we're just assuming he's going to bop back in there and be his MVP self right away in week one.
I don't know. Like the way he started off last year, those first couple plays didn't look like he was all that stable to begin with. Looked like he was a little bit nervous and a little bit shell-shocked and held on to the ball and ended up getting hurt when he should have thrown it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I'm hoping that this year that they give him some playing time in preseason to kind of get the feel of the actual game again. because he really hasn't had any. And I know this probably one of the reasons why he came back last year and he wanted to practice at the end of the season. So at least when he went into the offseason, he had the feeling that he was a part of the team and he had run some practices and he had been out there around the guys. That's why this is really shocking to me. I mean, it is shocking to me, to be honest with you. When I read it and I saw it, I'm like, oh, God, here they go again. And unfortunately, Rob Saleh is most likely going to lose his job if they have a losing season. It could be tied to all this crap surrounding their quarterback position.
Yeah, I mean, they tied themselves to him to extend their careers as Jets brass, and he might be the cement block that pulls them down to the bottom of the ocean.
I was thinking about this the other day, and I meant to ask you this, but I was trying to figure out, like, just in the last 5 years, let's just do 5 years.
5 years, last 5 years.
Now, the most important position in sport and the most important position in the sport of football happens to be quarterback. That's what everybody and every team is built around. It's common knowledge as to the way we all look at it. We all feel like whether or not does my team have a quarterback worthy of taking them to the Super Bowl. In the last 5 years, has there been more conversation about the Jet quarterback situation than the other 31 teams? I mean, every quarterback situation is different. I understand that. And, like, you know, whether it be the Broncos, they thought they were going to get Aaron Rodgers, then they got Wilson, and they cut Wilson. I mean, there's been a lot of discussion around their quarterback situation. But is there another team that has had their the Giants, I guess, too, but
yeah, but I think we're in the middle of it with the Jets. I mean, I think that
I feel like we're always in the middle of it.
Yeah. Well, of course, yeah, we are. I mean, because that's what we do. It's what we know. I mean, you played there. I mean, we're always talking about the Jets.
I was in the middle of it. Yeah,
right, exactly. So, but I do think like the Chicago Bears. There was a ton of conversation about that. Do you draft Caleb Williams? Do you keep Justin Fields? What do you do there? I think that with the Steelers and Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph and then going out and get Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, I think there's been a lot of conversation about that. There's always conversation around the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott.
Yeah, but at least they have a guy that's put up 4,500 yards and 35 touchdowns.
I mean, but the Jets are in that, yes, that perennially everybody is screaming about who's going to be their quarterback.
So you got to say, like, if you wanted to rank it, like in the top three.
Number one.
In the top three, you think?
It's a top three. 100%.
It has to be.
Of course. 100%. Yeah.
I know we talk a lot about the Minnesota Viking quarterback situation, but they've always seemed to have at least a stopgap for 3 to 4 years.
Yeah. So
your team is a stopgap team.
Well, yes, it seems like it. Yes, never have had that young guy that Dante Culpepper they drafted, and he or as Wally Zerbiak would say when you skull a ball.
Yeah.
Dante Skullpepper. So that's your name, Dante Skullpepper.
Right.
But yeah, they drafted him, and he was all right there for a while. But yeah, it's more of a stopgap thing. By the way, I guess he's the GM over at the golf course we were at yesterday. Big Minnesota Vikings fan comes up to me and goes, "What do you think? 12 wins?" I said, "What are you, nuts?
Jesus.
What are you, nuts? No way. See Sam Darnold with the blunt out on the golf course. And 12 wins my ass."